I really like Tom Felton. Seems like a good guy. I can't speak for the entire cast of the Harry Potter movies. Man, it's been what, like 20 years? But you know who is smarmy and duplicitous is Emma Watson. And for good measure, we'll throw in Daniel Radcliffe. I don't know if you guys saw the story recently, but Emma Watson gave an interview where she's like, I will always love J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling has her issues, but I give her a lot of my support. I mean, she did that whole Hermione was black thing, and she was just, there was this period where like 10 years after Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling is like, I'm woke too. Okay, yeah, try me. Whatever. But with all due respect to J.K. Rowling, I love the Harry Potter series. It's fantastic. The movies are great. The remakes are miserable. I'm not going anywhere. Dude, the remakes are going to be so bad. Voldemort is going to be played by a woman, apparently. Snape's black. What are you doing? Anyway, Emma Watson does this interview, and J.K. Rowling has come out heavily criticizing her. And so I say this to Emma Watson. She's now realizing that she's on the wrong side of history. And like any smarmy scumbag, here she comes. But hold on. I always say, you got to offer up a path to redemption, J.K. Rowling. If Emma Watson wants to come back into the fold and recognize that she was a lunatic for supporting the weird trans garbage, then make her perform a public act of contrition. Like, literally just apologize. Emma should go on and say, I was totally wrong about all this stuff. I shouldn't have said these things or insulted J.K. Rowling. That would be great. So here's the story from the New York Post. J.K. Rowling trashes ignorant Emma Watson after Harry Potter actress broke silence on their years-long rift. Ah, yes, I have the full post for you. And, man, I want to say this to J.K. Rowling. I remember I was a teenager. How old was I? I think I was like, 10 or something? I don't remember when the first Harry Potter book came out. No, I was like 8 maybe, early 90s. And then the second book came out. Third book came out, and it was like every couple of years or whatever. I remember being a teenager, and I was reading this post from a friend who was like, I can't believe we'll be 21 years old when the last book comes out. And I'm like, that is crazy. How long it has been that we were reading all these books and everything. Man, a small piece, but in a large way, a big portion of our lives. Our millennials won't shut up about Harry Potter. It's the only political references they have. So that being said, J.K. Rowling says, I'm seeing quite a bit of comment about this. So I want to make a couple of points. I'm not owed eternal agreement from any actor who once played a character I created. The idea is as ludicrous as me checking with the boss I had when I was 21 for what opinions I should hold these days. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. Such beliefs are legally protected, and I wouldn't want to see any of them threatened with loss of work or violence or death because of them. However, Emma and Dan in particular have both made it clear over the last few years they think our former professional association gives them a particular right and an obligation to critique me and my views in public. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continued to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake a certain protectiveness. Until quite recently, I had managed to throw off the memory of children who needed to be gently coaxed through their dialogue in a big scary film studio. For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma specifically, most notably on the witch trials of J.K. Rowling. Ironically, I told the producers that I didn't want her to be hounded as the result of anything I said. The television presenter in the attached clip highlights Emma's all witches speech, and in truth, that was a turning point for me. But it had a postscript that hurt far more than the speech, than the speech itself. Emma asked someone to pass on a handwritten note from her to me, which contained the single sentence, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." She has my phone number. This was back when the death, rape, and torture threats against me were at their peak. At a time when my personal security measures had to be tightened considerably, and I was constantly worried for my family's safety. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed on a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high-street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes the security man standing guard outside the door. Has she had to strip off in a newly mixed-sex changing room at a council-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male rapist who is identified into the women's prison? I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the thrashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. The greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack, I suspect, she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was. I might never have been this honest. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love, as though the friend was in fact their mother. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I have the same right, and I've finally decided to exercise it. In this clip, Sex Matters, they said, I think she's going to find that you can't sit on the fence. The real win is when ordinary people can say these things. On Emma Watson's comments about J.K. Rowling. Now, I will say this. I'm of two minds. I often point out that there has to be a path to redemption. Because if people like Emma Watson who do wrong and are spineless cowards are able to get by being spineless cowards for a long time, but when the times change, have no path forward, well, then what'll happen is she'll just stay on the path of cowardice. She'll join the evil, and I don't know what'll happen. Maybe we'll win, we'll get crushed, and some people might be emotionally satisfied with that, but I want to win. So with Emma Watson having a prominent personal, a prominent position in pop culture, I think it's important that she come out and say the things that she said. To say things of J.K. Rowling like, I love her and I treasure her, is a turnaround. What do we say? Thank you, Emma Watson. Do more, say more. Condemn the violence, condemn the movement, and stop pretending. Now, apparently, she's long given up on wanting to be an actress and wants a normal life. She'll never have one. And that does suck for these child actress and actor people. She's never going to know what it's like to grow up and, want or to be scared. Everything that J.K. Rowling pointed out. The problem now is the emotional element of us says we must punish those and send a message to all future generations. The lowest circle of hell is reserved for betrayers, for the disloyal, where you will be chewed up in the mouth of Satan in a field of ice for all eternity. Why should we offer you that redemption with your cold heart and black beady little eyes and the cowardice? And I love this so much because J.K. Rowling wrote all about this in her own books. That's right, Emma. You are, dare I say, Peter Pettigrew. I know. Here we go. Oh, I read all the books. I've seen all the movies. They're going to ruin the reboots. But for those that are Harry Potter fans, I say this. For those that don't know and haven't read the books, Peter Pettigrew, he was the secret keeper of the Potters. And, James and Lily Potter were hiding from Voldemort. Voldemort wanted to kill, there was resistance to Voldemort. And Peter was their friend. And he was their secret keeper. Only he could reveal their hidden location, to which Voldemort hunted down and murdered them and tried to murder their child. And Peter was so scared for himself that he switched sides and ended up becoming a Weasley evil man and then lived as a rat for a really long time. A lot of people like to point out the plot holes or whatever. But hey, look, in a world of magic, you write it as you go, and you can fill in the gaps later on because Deus Ex Machina. That's you, Emma. Emma Watson, you were the betrayer. You were entrusted. You were a friend. You were given an opportunity. You were made rich. And let's be honest, through not anything related to raw talent. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to insult Emma Watson's capabilities today. But let's be real. These kids didn't know what they were doing. The acting was miserable. You had these little kids that they were going to have play Harry Potter in the Harry Potter or whatever, and they did not know how to act. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. They didn't choose you, Emma, because of your talents. They said, here's a cute young girl who can play Hermione. Hermione was supposed to be frizzled with big teeth, but a lot of people were like, look at her. They chose this cute little girl. And she has grown up to be a attractive woman, as it were. But you were not given this opportunity based on the hard work that you did. No, you were just given it by J.K. Rowling and everything she built. And to be so disloyal, man. Do y'all know the story of Hachiko the dog? A story that brings a tear to my eye? Or how about Gellert's grave? These stories are important. The legends that we hold as men. The legends of loyalty and honor. Hachiko the dog. I'll give you the simple version. There was a Nikita puppy rescued by a Japanese professor. And one day, Hachiko the dog was his name, was a little older. The professor was leaving his home to go to the train and go to university where he would lecture. Hachiko broke out and followed him to the train station. And through a series of these events of him following him to the train, created this routine. Every day, Hachiko would walk with the professor to the train, where the professor would get on the train, and then Hachiko would go home. Hachiko would come back around 5 p.m. when the professor was getting off the train, and they'd walk home together. Thus was the routine. Until one day. The professor suffered a stroke while at university and died. He never came back. Hachiko came to that train station and waited, and his friend never came back. For 10 years, Hachiko waited at that train station, and everyone knew him. They knew who this dog was. They tried to rehouse him and move him, but he would always come back. He refused to leave, loyal to the end until he died. In Japan, they built a statue in his honor. A dog. A dog. Just a dog. The people of Japan recognized the honor of loyalty. And so they built a statue in his honor. There was a story I read where there was a vinyl recording which contained the bark of Hachiko. And it was cracked, and they had fused it back together, and they played it on the radio for the entire country to hear. Everyone had to hear this bark. The words, the guttural utterances of this legendary figure who never shared a thought, just his actions. That's what honor and loyalty meant to the people of Japan. There are many such stories of honor, integrity, and loyalty. There's a story of a Yorkshire Terrier who saw his friend die, his owner, but he didn't smell the death. He didn't know. He just saw the men carrying him away in a casket, and he followed after him. He chased the hearse, sat at the funeral, and then sat atop the grave for years. One of my favorite stories is the story of Gellert's grave. It's a Welsh legend, and it's truly terrifying. This one's not like Hachiko. This one's sad, but it also shows the loyalty. It shows the reason why we care so much. There is a landmark in Wales called Gellert's Grave. The story may just be legend, but the story goes like this. Prince Wayland was working in his old hut back in the, I don't know, what is it, like 800 AD or something like that. He decided to set out for his daily tasks, and his faithful hound Gellert, conspicuously absent, they say. But all that really means is he left his newborn son and his dog at home as he went out to do his daily tasks. Not long, he would be gone. Upon returning to his home, the door was open. Prince Wayland, panicked, runs inside, and he sees his home destroyed. He sees his child's crib flipped over. And just then, Gellert approaches, wagging his tail with blood dripping from his mouth. Prince Wayland, furious that Gellert would have betrayed him as such, destroyed his home and killed his son, draws his sword and sticks it into the side of Gellert, slaying the dog, who lets out a dying whelp, collapsing. The whelp awoke his sleeping child. Wayland hears the sound of his son crying and rushes over to the manger. Well, not manger, that's Jesus, but to the crib. Throws it aside, and there he sees the wolf Gellert had slain to save his son. But in his haste, without even thinking, he killed his loyal friend who saved the life of his child. Legend has it, he never smiled again. What an amazing story. It's a horrible story. It's sad. Man, I don't know what I would do if my dog saved the life of my child, and in my haste, without thinking, I killed him. Loyalty means everything. A society, our civilization, is all built on loyalty. And we have people like Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe who wouldn't know loyalty if it bit them on the arse. So here is J.K. Rowling, who gave them everything. No, don't get me wrong, they did work. Hard work. I respect that. Being young kids, sacrificing your childhood, they didn't realize what they were giving up. But today, they live in luxury and comfort. I actually think Daniel Radcliffe's a great actor. He's actually one of my favorite actors. I love the movies in Horns. I thought was really great, and I'm really impressed with his work. But loyalty means everything. Without loyalty, your society and civilization will fall apart. It's trust. That's why I take such issue with these people. And I give a shout out to J.K. Rowling. I owe her nothing. She owes me nothing. I don't know her. Her books were fantastic. I love them. The movies were great. I love them as well. After the fact, she did those Fantastic Beasts. I'm not a big fan. But I'm just saddened to see that this is the state of the West. These people. Now, I say we offer up Emma Watson a chance to return to the fold. Publicly apologize. Stand up and say you were wrong. J.K. Rowling was right, and you'd have never betrayed her. And I say, thank you. This is a start, but these people need to be condemned all the same. They can be welcomed back when they apologize, but people need to understand that if you are a betrayer, if you are dishonorable and disloyal, you'll be cast out. Because we cannot survive as a species without trust and loyalty. Sometimes loyalty is bad, blind loyalty, but you should know why you are loyal. And it's because together we build civilizations, we move mountains. But if I can't trust you, then all we have is fighting, conflict, and death. And it is the disloyal as to why we are in the state that we are in. I will wrap it up there, my friends. Smash the like button, share the show. Thanks for hanging out on this The Tim Pool channel. If you didn't subscribe, subscribe and tell your friends. We'll see you on the next bit.